All right, hey you guys, welcome to part 2 of our Real Solutions series. I'm glad you've decided to tune into this. And this week I want to actually get into some specific solutions, okay? In this series, I don't want to spend as much time focusing on the problems as much as I want to focus on actual solutions. If we've experienced anxiety or depression or addiction, you don't need me to come up here and just tell you more and more about it. You've experienced it. And chances are you have on some level. So I want to show us some real solutions like the series is called, okay? But first, there's a few things that I think are important to understand, okay? In this TED Talk that I watched, I mentioned it last week, if you tuned into that. I watched a TED Talk where a guy was talking about depression and anxiety and addiction. There's actually two by the same guy. And he said something really interesting that I think is important for us to understand. He said, depression and anxiety are not malfunctions. They're signals. They're signals, okay? So why I think that's important is because sometimes we can feel really guilty or ashamed if we're struggling with one of these things. Now, I want to be careful. There's a difference, okay? Usually addiction is something sinful that we're struggling with, and I still don't want you to feel guilty or ashamed and keep it a secret. But with depression and anxiety, a lot of times we have misinterpreted Bible verses that talk about anxiety, that say, like there's a verse where Jesus says, don't be anxious. There's a few verses that say, don't be anxious. Those are not saying don't be anxious because being anxious is sinful, okay? They're saying don't be anxious because you do not have to be anxious. There are options. Now, without getting into too much detail, there are times when anxiety and depression might be a result or part of something sinful, okay? Still though, it's no use to us to just feel guilty and ashamed and keep it a secret. And this guy says depression and anxiety, they're not malfunctions, okay? It doesn't mean something's wrong with you in the way that we think need to be ashamed about. They're signals. What are they signals about? Well, they're usually signals that something is wrong that we can work towards fixing, okay? Now, it could be something physical. It could be something mental. It could be something relational or emotional or spiritual. Okay, but they're signals. It's our brains and our bodies trying to tell us something, and so it helps to look and say, okay, what is going on? What is causing this anxiety? What is causing this depression? And are there solutions for it? The other thing, and some of this I'm going to mention a few times, but the other thing I really want us to realize is that depression and anxiety and addiction are often based around lies that we tell ourselves or that Satan tells us. So we need to learn to identify those lies and then fight them with truth. And again, I'm hopefully going to get into that more detailed as the weeks go on, but we can often get into this idea where we're starting to tell ourselves and believe lies about ourselves that just aren't true, You do bad on one test at school, well, I'm a complete failure. I never do good at anything, right? Those can start to build up in our minds when it's like, no, you don't fail every test, you just failed one test. That's just an example. Hopefully you understand what I mean. We can learn to identify the lies in our mind and then start to fight them with truth. Now, the Bible provides us with some really good answers for these things because God made us. He knows us. He knows what's best for us. And so last week, when we talked about Jesus saying something like, hey, here's the most important thing for you. Have a real relationship with God and have real loving relationships with other people. He knows that is best for us because He created us. And so He's like, here's the best way for you to flourish as a person, okay? So we have these good spiritual answers that we're going to look at that the Bible provides us. Sometimes also, though, it's physical habits, right? Diet and sleep and exercise and even going outside. These are all things that are proven to be connected with depression and anxiety. Interestingly enough, right, going outside, being in connection with nature is a solution a lot of the times to anxiety and depression. It can help. So we have these spiritual things that we can fix, and sometimes we have physical things that we need to fix, okay? It can be different, but again, Not malfunctions, but signals. Signals telling us that something might be wrong, and how can we fix it? Okay, here's 2 solutions for you. I'm going to just focus on 2 tonight. 2 solutions for you that can help with anxiety and depression. The first is gratefulness, okay, or just being thankful, right? It can be extremely emotionally healthy for us, mentally healthy for us, to take some time to remind ourselves of all the things that we can be thankful for. Okay, so if you're struggling with anxiety or depression, I would encourage you, this can be extremely helpful. Literally list out things that you're thankful for. If you need to write them down or say them out loud, list out things that you can be thankful for. Because what this does is it causes a switch in our perspective, right? If anything, it helps us see that maybe things are not quite as bad as we're telling ourselves they are, right? And allowing ourselves to just focus on what we can be thankful for the good things in our life, can encourage us, can bring us up sometimes out of that darkness we might feel, can help relieve some of that anxiety that we might be feeling. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you." Why is it the will of God? Because he knows what's best for us. He knows that when we take time to be thankful, it's going to help our mental state, our emotional state. It's going to help us when we are struggling with things like anxiety and depression. Okay, so store that away. If you're feeling fine right now, good. If you're in the middle of something like this, something that's causing you anxiety or depression, take some time, even right now. Think of things that you can be thankful for. It'll cause a switch in your perspective, and it should help. Okay, here's the next one. Just 2 for tonight, like I said. Next one is benevolence, which is a fancy word meaning help someone else. Okay, now this is proven. I just read an article from Psychology Today that showed exactly how this works, okay? But many times, part of the problem with our anxiety or our depression or an addiction is that we are very self-focused, right? We're very self-focused, whatever that looks like. So finding a way to help someone else pulls us out of that self-focus. And it's proven to help with these problems. And as a bonus, it helps other people too. Okay, so there was a study that was done. I read this article in Psychology Today. This study was done, and they had people who were struggling with depression, and they had half of them try to help their depression by focusing on boosting their own self-image. Okay, whatever that looks like, right? Like posting good pictures on social media, just trying to build themselves up, right? Boost their own image. Then they had the other half of this group work on boosting up other people. Okay, helping other people, benevolence, like we're talking about. The group that helped other people saw huge improvements in their depression. The group that tried to boost themselves, their depression got worse, okay? So again, scientifically, psychologically proven that helping other people helps us when we are in a state of anxiety or depression and even addiction, right? Because we become so self-focused. So it's helpful to pull ourselves out of that by focusing on other people and what we can do to help other people. Okay, it can be as simple as sending someone an encouraging message. It can be as simple as helping your family with chores around the house. It can be as simple as praying for someone. Anything you can do that is outward focused, instead of just focused on yourself, that you can do to help someone, is proven to help us when we are experiencing issues like this. Galatians 5:13 says, "For you were called to freedom. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh," aka an opportunity to just help yourself, "but through love serve one another." Again, the Bible's got it figured out. The Bible is confirming what research is telling us, right? Helping other people is what we are built to do. That is what encourages us and builds us up. Okay, so very simple for this lesson. Just 2 hopefully solutions that you can store away in your mind for when you might need them, or you can use them right now. And you know what? Even if you're not struggling with anxiety or depression or an addiction right now, being grateful and helping other people is always something that we should be doing. It's good for our emotional and our spiritual and our mental health all the time. But I would encourage you guys to try and put that into practice, okay? Make a list of things you're thankful for, find ways to help other people, and this is going to be something that helps us as well. All right, I hope you are encouraged by that. I hope you can put those into practice. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time.